Hi YouTube, I am gonna make a video today that is unscripted because I have like an hour before I have to leave the house, and for some reason I felt incredibly inspired to make a video talking about cars today. I'm definitely very car obsessed. It just came on one day early in my adulthood and I haven't been able to turn it off since. If any of you guys follow me on Instagram, you'll know this because I'm constantly sharing cool cars to my story and just dreaming and lusting over so many cool cars that I will probably never be able to afford. And I don't know why today of all days, I just felt like making a video about the ones that I'm particularly interested in, but I did, and it's really gloomy out and it's a Sunday, so this is what you're getting. So to get one thing out of the way, I obviously lust over very crazy, exotic supercars that they're so unattainable that it's kind of just like a pipe dream, but I'm actually a lot more interested in more attainable cars. Like, I think if I look at this like very short, because I had to keep it short, trust me, list of cars that I really like, I don't know if any of them really even crest over like $150,000 maybe, like, and those are like the top of the list. But of the cars that I am just incredibly in love with that are like in the $1 million plus range that I'm like, oh, one day if I just like win the lottery, I'll kind of just rapid fire through them. First one that comes to mind is probably a Carrera GT, amazing naturally aspirated V10 stick shift. It's just so analog. It's like the pinnacle of the combustion engine. Formula One derived V10 sounds better than just about anything besides maybe like a Lexus LFA or something. But again, they're so unobtainium. It's just like, don't even bother trying to save up for one of those. It's just like, forget about it. I also love Diablos. I think that Diablos are just so menacing and just raucous and just so crazy, like rambunctious, and like Lambo doors. I feel like the history behind those, like an SE30 or a Yoda, would just be unbelievable to have sitting in your driveway. And again, sorry, I'm not going into much detail about these. It's just that class of car is not what I think about every day, because it's just so far out of the realm of being able to attain that it's just not even all that interesting to me, to be honest. Honestly, one of the only other cars that I think is in that like $1 million+ range that I'm like pretty obsessed with, and it's not worth $1 million at all, honestly, in my opinion, probably the Aston Martin Lagonda Touareg. It's not worth that much money. It's probably the best looking four-door car that's ever been built, period, and end of sentence. Beautiful V12, incredible styling, super luxurious. I love Aston Martins, and not really much else to say on that, because again, I will never be able to own one. I don't think they're worth $1 million, but they are, and they're amazing, and if I could even just see one in person one day, I could probably die happy. Anyway, on to the cars that I actually am extremely interested in. The first class of cars that I'm really obsessed with are cars that have either been owned by my dad or he has almost purchased, and then my mom told him that he could not purchase them. So obviously there's a bit of like an emotional component to why I'm really interested in these. I actually think that if I did somehow just, again, win the lottery or something like that, I'd be more interested in trying to experience all of these cars before I would go after something that's just insanely valuable and that you don't want to drive and you just want to keep in a garage under covers. My dad had, I believe it was an '02 G55, a pre-facelift G-Wagon, like the M113. That thing was so sick. I wasn't really even into cars when I was that age. I mean, that was like my very early childhood, but I remember thinking that like this thing was special. It was it just got so many looks. It was super reliable, which I feel like not a lot of people quite understand about those early 2000s G-Wagons, because now they're just like a bit of like a celebrity status thing, but they really were just like awesome, reliable, bulletproof cars. We never had any problems with it. The best memory I have with it, I know this sounds weird as like the best memory I had with it, but the best memory that I had with that car was when I was celebrating my 10th birthday, I want to say, and for some reason we decided to go to a Penguins game, a hockey game. I say strange because I had the stomach flu and I was vomiting everywhere. And I just remember I was in that G-Wagon with my dad and I'm like vomiting out the side of this car in downtown Pittsburgh, and like we're driving, so my vomit is just like flying through the air, so disgusting. And then my dad asked if my sister could go get us like some paper towels or whatever from like a local restaurant. So she goes in there to like get some paper towels, and he forgets that she got out of the car and just got on the on-ramp onto 79 to start driving us home towards Erie. And my other sister was like, hey, did you forget that Abby's at the restaurant? So he just like use it like Tokyo drift style to go get my 12-year-old sister from this like dive bar in downtown Pittsburgh, and it just never looks sketchier than just seeing this like doctor in a G-Wagon like pick up his daughter at a bar, and his son is just like vomiting profusely out the window. It's actually not my favorite memory, but of that car, but it was just the funniest memory, and I can't believe that he almost left his daughter just like in Pittsburgh. I would honestly want a short wheelbase one though. I think like the G320s are so cool, and you can get them for like 30 grand. Like, I think they're just so cool, especially, I don't know, it'd be really awesome to even have like one of the resto modded ones, or like a G cab. I think they're so ugly, but they're so cool. Like, to be able to put the top down in a G-Wagon or like a two-door G is just like the coolest thing that 30 grand can buy you. The G cabs are obviously way more expensive. The Kardashians have made them like $250,000, but I'd be totally cool with just like a two-door like short wheelbase. I think they're awesome. Next car on this list is my favorite Ferrari, which it's not an F40, it's not an F50. It's actually a 360 Modena. Which anybody who knows anything about Ferraris is probably laughing at me right now, like a 24-year-old who thinks that a 360 is the coolest Ferrari. I don't think it's the coolest Ferrari, but it's the Ferrari that I would, if I ever got lucky enough, I would want the most. I think that the 360 is just the perfect, approachable, entry-level Ferrari. And like the later ones, like I would want a coupe, so not an 05, but probably like a 02, 03, 04. They're really reliable. They don't have a lot of problems. And the other reason that I'd really want one is because one time in like I guess it would have been like late 2000s, a friend of my dad's who was a lawyer and was representing this lady in like a divorce case basically was like, look, there's this 360 that this lady's getting rid of. She just wants it gone. She, I guess, got it in some settlement and she has no idea what it's worth. And I think that they were gonna, sell it for like 60 or something like that, which is, it's like half price and maybe a little more. I can't remember. And it got vetoed from, Mrs. Gilman. But I didn't know anything about cars at the time. I had no interest, but I think that 360 is a stick 360 specifically. And if I really could be picky, like a red tan stick 360 is just one of the coolest, like entry level, I don't know, like Ferrari exotic experiences without all the ridiculous maintenance. And it's still like an amazing sounding V8. It's a car that you would still be really interested in driving. It's not really a car that you'd be interested in just like protecting, putting under covers, which personally, that's what I'm into. I think car collectors are cool, but like I'd say it's not my thing, as if I have the ability to do that. But it's just not my thing. I think that driving cars are really, really cool. So I always am like, damn, I wish that he would have just, trumped that decision from the wife and just been like, you know what, screw it. I'm just gonna go out and get like a bright red Ferrari to bring home. Would have been so impractical. And for context, he had to sell his Porsche Boxster because it only had 2 seats and he had 4 kids. So can you imagine if he tried to come home with a Ferrari? That would have been absolutely ridiculous. But still, my goal in life, hopefully one day, is to have a 360. Those things are so cool. My dad did own an S4 sometime in the 2000s. I can't remember what gen it was. He just was like jumping through cars, I guess, at that point. Which again is so sad that I wasn't into cars at the time, because I would have like loved to have appreciated them, but I didn't. And I regret that I just had a stupid little pea brain at the time and was just like, oh yeah, it's a car, it has 4 wheels. But he had an S4 at some point, and I wouldn't want an S4, but I would want the S8 that shared the V10 with the Gallardo. Those things are so cool. Like, talk about a sleeper car. I mean, I think Gallardos are really cool too. I don't think stick Gallardos are worth what they're worth. If they were, they would probably be on this list too. But to have that same engine in like pretty, I don't know, sleek and a little bit more luxurious kind of packaging from an Audi would be awesome. And it's just so like, if you know, which I love about that car. So the Audi S8 with the Gallardo V10. that one's definitely on my list. I actually kind of would want a Boxster, to be honest. I think that Porsche Boxsters are really cool. It's just, I'm gonna talk about a 911 in a second because I know everybody's probably waiting for me to talk about that because that's the car that I'm so publicly obsessed with. But for a second, just pause. I like the Boxster because I just think it's such an insane bargain. Like a Boxster literally showed up on my Facebook Marketplace the other day in Erie for like 20 grand with like not that many miles on it. It was a beautiful, like, I think it was like blue tan or something like that. Stick Boxster S actually. And like, it's just such a great cruiser car, especially if you, I don't know, live in a place like Erie where when it's nice out and you can have top down, you can like go around the peninsula and you know, drive around the lake or whatever. It's a really awesome car and it's just such a good bargain. So not really much else to say about it, but I think a nice, well-suited Boxster would be nice. And honestly, if I lived in a place like Southern California, I think like a Boxster Spider is pretty much the best value for dollar Porsche you can get. And that's coming from a 911 guy, and they look really good and they handle well, and it's like it's a Porsche, you know what I mean? Like, it comes from a reliable brand that makes normal cars, so I don't know how you could go wrong with something like that. Before my dad had kids, or actually maybe right around the time that he started having kids, he did have an original Bronco. And for context, this is when Broncos were like, I mean, they were like just ubiquitous, you know what I mean? I mean, actually, he might have even had one, I can't remember if he had it pre or post OJ Simpson. I'd have to ask him, but he had a first gen Bronco. I don't know if he bought it new or used, but he was just kind of like a broke resident at the time, and he had one, and he loved it. I mean, he was like, it wasn't a good car, but it just looked so cool. I mean, I actually have a new Bronco on my list too, but I mean, the old Broncos are probably just, they have so much more just, I don't know, cool factor than the new ones. The new ones are a lot more, I'm sure, better, reliable, I mean, more tech or whatever, but safer, obviously. But I don't know, the old Broncos, like, if you could just have it as like a whatever second, third car, those things are just so cool. I mean, they've just like developed this reputation now. I mean, obviously they have developed a reputation because they brought back the Bronco, and I like the new Bronco, but it'd be cool to have an old one. The last car on my list of cars that I would really want to own one day that my dad used to own, or at least crossed paths with at some point, maybe didn't own, but he had an E39 M5, which again, if anybody who I guess is, you know, kind of car enthusiast watching this, like, probably is like, what the f? He had an E39 M5 at the same time that he had a M113 G-Wagon? Like, who is this guy? He's Steve Gilman, that's who he was. Like, dude had crazy taste. He still does have good taste, but like, I look back on this and I'm just like, damn, like, that's so cool. The interesting thing about the E39 M5 that he had was that he had that car when my brother, who's 7 years older than me, was learning to drive. So my brother was, you know, driving it and like having fun, but he like wasn't super into cars. So my dad ended up selling it, and he sold it to one of his good friends who lives out in like Grand Junction. And it sadly, you know, it was involved in an accident. It was totaled or whatever. But I always think back about how he kind of asked my brother, like, do you want this? Like, I was gonna sell it, but like, you know, obviously if you want it, like, whatever. And he was like, I don't know. And I'm like, oh no, the E39 M5, he could have just held on to E39 M5. I mean, obviously now I know that would have been like tens of thousands of dollars to maintain. Like, even ones with like 200,000 miles on them, they don't sell for nothing, you know what I mean? Like, there's still value to them because people want to keep them running, but they are expensive to keep running. So probably best that he got it off his hands. It's like having a V10 M5, you know what I mean? Like, that's gonna give you trouble. But how cool is that to own like an E39 M5? Like, I don't know, you know, right around, he might have even had a warranty on it, I don't know, but what a time to be alive, to be a dude driving like a low mile E39 M5. And actually, one of his friends who is a physician also just recently, like in the last few years, bought one. And it was weird. I got in, like, he was like, do you want to go for a ride? And I was like, sure. And I got in, and like the smell of it, and like the buttons, the layout, everything, like, I was like, dude, you just unlocked like hundreds of memories in my brain that I forgot that I had from driving around in this car, or being driven around in this car. So, you know, one day, if the opportunity presents itself, I think that is maybe the second best looking four-door car of all time, next to the Lagonda Turaf. So that's on the list somewhere. Last car on my list, which, by the way, I obviously understand how, like, insane this whole entire video concept is. If you look at it through the lens of, like, holy shit, this kid grew up with, like, an insane childhood with a dad who can afford these cars. I completely get it. That's not lost on me. Obviously, I'm trying to make this video more centered about, like, the cars that I'm interested in, not the fact that I had, like, this absurdly privileged childhood. But it's not lost to me, just so you know. The last car is obviously a 911. I mean, that's the top of the list. That's, like, of the attainable cars in life, that's tops for me. I'm not gonna talk your head off for too long about this because I will unfortunately not be able to stop talking. It's kind of like taking a sip from a fire hydrant with me, but I'll just give you the quick breakdown. 991.1 generation is my favorite generation of 911. I know nobody who cares about cars watching this video will agree with me. They will think that it's about as stupid as my take on the 360, but it is, like, sorry, it is for me. Last naturally aspirated engine that they did. Not that the turbocharged ones are bad. Like, my dad has a 991.2 Carrera T, and you can't even tell, really. It's such a, I mean, you hear it, but that's your only indication. Otherwise, if you closed your eyes, which shouldn't be driving with your eyes closed, you would have no idea that it's not normally aspirated. But I think it's the best looking. Again, I know that's crazy. Like, oh, the air-cooled 911, it's a 993, it's so much more beautiful. The lines, the G bodies, it's just, I don't know. It's not, for me, they're a little too small. I know it sounds crazy. Like, again, yell at me in the comments for all I care. But I think the 991.1s are the best middle ground of modern and analog. Like, they had touchscreens and, like, backup cameras, and, like, the gear selector was, like, really just, like, you know, short and very, like, clunky, and they had a good amount of power but not too much power, but also, like, they're safe, you know what I mean? And the back seats are, like, somewhat livable, like, not really, but they're somewhat tolerable. I've been in, like, G-body Targas before. I've never been near, like, a 930, or I've never been near even a 993. I've been in 997s, and I also really like those. But I just feel like the 991.1 is where they really got it right. I also have a bit of, like, an emotional connection to that, because that's, like, when I was getting into cars, that was the current generation 911. And I know the other ones are either bigger, faster, more powerful, or they're, like, super cool, vintage, whatever. But I also like cars you can drive, and, like, nobody feels guilty about driving a 1.1. I have on my list here that the best versions of the 991.1 are obviously the 50th edition, anything that basically got the GTS engine. So the GTS is up there, except I don't like black rims, but the GTS is up there. I mean, yes, obviously, like, please give me that. And because I like that it has 4 seats. I'm really into that. I feel like that's just part of the 911 ethos, because otherwise, just, like, get a Cayman. They're better. Sorry, sue me. But I love the GTS. I love the 50th anniversary, the Houndstooth seats. I would do terrible things to get, like, a black 50th anniversary with the Houndstooth seat. Stick, obviously, that's, like, non-negotiable. I totally lied one time about, like, being interested in a gray one that came up for sale, because the guy only wanted, like, 100 grand for it or something, and now they're like 170, 200 sometimes. But I mean, I totally was bluffing. I was like, yeah, I'm really interested, and he's like, okay, come by it. And I was like, I don't have the money for that. I'm just joking with you. But that, or, like, the GTS Club Coupe, like what they made for the 60th anniversary of, like, PCA, or like even just, like, the normal, like, the Club Coupe. That green over, like, brown is, like, oh, so beautiful. But the only reason why I wouldn't want one of those is because, like, you just feel too guilty driving it. You know what I mean? Like, people keep the miles off those, and I would want something that I can just really, like, hammer away on and not feel guilty about. So again, the 991.1, like, how do I get you? How do I get you? You're just so beautiful. Okay, now we're moving on to the couple cars that I am really interested in, that are just my own Sam Gilman original. No real emotional, like, I didn't grow up with these things around, but, like, I just have developed a really strong kind of taste for them. I'm just gonna generally lump in any sort of like convertible 2-door SUV. Like a CJ7 would be really cool, or even though they're, like, terrible to drive, but I think those are really awesome. I think that, like, even, like, just, I don't know, like 2-door Wranglers are, like, kind of cool. I kind of have a soft spot for those. Obviously, I talked about, like, the G's and the Broncos and stuff like that. But I think even just like Mitsubishi, like, Pajeros, like, those are really cool, or, like, Suzuki Mighty Boys. That's what those are, right? Not the Mighty Boy, the Jimny. That's what I was thinking of. Although I do actually kind of like the Mighty Boy. They're really weird, but or like a disco. Like those things are really cool, I think too. All right, moving on to the next one. CL65 AMG. So tempting for the money. Just a sick ass V12. Like, oh, just like that classic like 2000 styling with the V12 is so sick. And like the old school luxury, like the beautiful like plush seats and like the weight of the door when you close it. I imagine those things are a nightmare to maintain. Like, I've watched Tyler Hoover's video on like him maintaining them, and I'm like, no thanks, can't do it. But that would be such a sick, just like German boat Autobahn cruiser to just like casually stroll around at like 100 miles an hour. That's one of the coolest cars ever, specifically a black one. I mean, black with those black wheels with like the silver trim. SL60 or CL65 AMG. Similarly, like SLS AMG, obviously not for the engine, but I'm just kind of going through the Mercedes right now, and I feel like it's just the doors for me, to be honest. I mean, like they look good, although they kind of look like a toboggan when you really look at them, and the headlights are a little weird, but the doors are just so cool. Like there's a part of me, I know I was talking about how I'm into like sleeper, attainable, yada yada yada. Okay, it's great, rational things, I guess, but like there's something so cool about like just really cool doors. I mean, honestly, like that's why I think like scissor doors on like V12 Lambos are so cool. Like it's just, I don't know, there's a very small part of me that's a very loud part of me that's just like couldn't imagine just like stepping out in one of those. So I think that the SLS AMG has to be up there, or like, I don't know, like a Gullwing, but those seem a little fragile. I don't think I'd really enjoy one of those. That's too much of like a museum piece. Actually though, the next one on my list that I am a little bit more obsessed with, which is weird because it's like a similar price point as a CL65 AMG, but it's just like a BMW i8. There was a guy who lived near me growing up who bought one new, which like, I don't know why you would do that, but he bought one. I mean, he just had so much money, I guess, but like, I don't know why you'd buy one new, but he did. And it was so cool. Like, I think that a lot of people look at the i8 as kind of a failure because like it wasn't super powerful, and like a lot of people were confused by it, and like, I don't know, electric powertrains were like still growing legs, if that makes sense, but like it wasn't slow, you know what I mean? And it was just cool. Like, you pull up in one of those things and it looked like a spaceship, you know what I mean? And I don't know, just seeing him get out in one of those, I didn't, you know, particularly know him super well, but like I wanted to know him because I was like, dude, who is this guy rolling out in the scissor door Beamer? Like, oh my gosh, so cool. And like, they're not that expensive now that they're heavily depreciated. And like, again, just like for a weekend kind of cruiser thing, like that's such a great car. Next one on my list, going back to V12s, the M760i. The M760i, another just sick ass V12. I want one of these things. I'm gonna be real. I want one of these things badly. And they're dipping into like the 40s. Like the 40s. I don't know what the MSRP was on it. Probably like 120 grand or something like that. I'd have to check. But it's like, it just like demands respect. Like people who know, they get it. And it's so luxurious. This is the 7 Series, by the way, that had the like touchpad or the touch control key fob where you could like you could summon your car. I'm sure that key fob broke all the time, but that was just like part of it. And there were like tablets in the back, and there was like massaging seats and whatever. Like that'd be the craziest like day, such a killer daily, especially if you'd like kids and stuff, just pulling them around in a mean V12, like a really like just calm luxury car that also has this insane powertrain. I also think that the Audi R8 is a car that I would be super into. A stick R8, that's kind of the main, I don't know, the main qualification. It was an incredible halo car for Audi. I mean, they did it right. They priced it correctly. They styled it correctly. They put in the right powertrain for it, and they had this amazing, like that's kind of what sent Audi into this, like, I don't know, into the big leagues a little bit to compete with like the other really high-end German brands. So I feel like there's a lot of history behind it that I'm pretty appreciative of, but I actually don't know if I'd want a V8 or a V10, which I know sounds crazy, like I'm talking about like big cylinder counts, but like the bargain of a V8, like a stick V8 R8, is pretty strong. I mean, that's like 991.1, 911 territory, and I feel like like it's still like super powerful, and you still get like the really cool styling of like the side blade. I feel like I'd want like a red one, like a red with like a carbon side blade would be super cool. And the V10 would be awesome, I'm sure, but I think I'd feel a little too guilty driving it. Like if I were to get a V10 for something like that and you don't really have to feel guilty about it, I'd get that like that S8, like the Audi S8, or I'd get like an RG10 Viper or something like that. But honestly, just as like let's just beat on this car and have fun, I feel like the V8 R8 like stick, even like a first gen, that would be so cool. All right, speaking of more V8s, I think that like a first gen like stick Vantage, so cool. And I've heard that they're actually not as unreliable as people think. Like I've heard that that's kind of like, you know, the well-kept secret in the Aston Martin community is that like they cost 40 grand and they actually aren't that bad to own. I've heard. I don't actually know if that's true, but I've watched some YouTubers who talk about it and they're like, I don't really have any problems with it. Like I got it dialed in and then it never had any problems with it. I'm sure that when something does break, it's incredibly expensive, which is kind of why it's almost like a guilty pleasure car, because it's like I shouldn't own something like that. Like that's so like it's just so it can become a money pit, you know what I mean? But like, I don't know, it's very, very tempting because the styling is beautiful. Although now I'd see like a Ford Focus and I'm just like, never mind, it doesn't look special anymore. But before that, I would say it's like such a beautifully styled car. I love the swan wing doors. They're like one of the first like really cool exotic cars to do like the flush handles, which I think is awesome. And they sound so good. I mean, like, obviously, like a V12 would be awesome. But again, like, I don't know. I'm into the attainable cars. Like, I'm into the V8s, even from V12 manufacturers. Like, you know what's weird? I'm almost realizing as I'm speaking through this that I'm into the V8s from the V12 manufacturers, like 360 and the Vantage. And then I'm into the V12s from the V8 manufacturers, like Mercedes and BMW. Wow, it's a crazy connection I just drew. Really figuring myself out in this video. Speaking of V8s, this is a quite unobtainium car, at least nowadays, but I love the original, well, not the original, but the previous generation Ford GT. In red with the original wheels. Actually, no, in red with the sport wheels. That's a bad car right there. I really love that car because of probably Burnout 3, this really awesome like race car game that I played when I was a kid. But that car, I think that car kicks the shit out of the new Ford GT. I don't really care about the fact the new Ford GT is a V6 at all, but like it's a race car, and I don't like that. I like that the Ford GT, the previous gen Ford GT, is like a usable car, you know what I mean? Like I like, yes, they're incredibly valuable, and like I don't know, I guess maybe that's kind of a silly thing to say, but like I don't know, I love how analog it is. I love that you can still have 3 pedals in it. I love, well, you have to have 3 pedals in it, but I love that you can drive it places, and like it's like, again, it's a sports car made from a company that makes normal cars, and I think that's such a beautiful happy medium to be in, or at least that's what really scratches my brain. And the styling is like maybe one of the best looking cars I've ever seen. From like every angle, that car is so interesting, and specifically in red, because I mean that was just like, it wasn't the press color or whatever, at least I don't think, but like it just looks so good. I love red cars. I'd want a red 911 if I could have one. I'd want a red Ford GT. I'd want a red R8. Probably wouldn't want a red Diablo. I feel like I'd want a yellow Diablo or a purple one. But yeah, anyway, Ford GT, what I would do for one of those. Honestly, if I could even just like sit in one, I would be happy, or just even get to open the doors to one. It's just so cool. I'm gonna end this list with a really boring one. Sorry, but I love wagons. I would honestly either want a Panamera Sport Turismo or probably an E-Class wagon. I love E-Class wagons. I think they're so cool. But I want an E-Class wagon that has the third row, like the rear facing third row. I don't know, I do sometimes think about like, well, I've listed a million cars on here and like none of them, but maybe like 1 or 2 of them even have 4 seats, and I'm like, what would I do realistically? And I think those are so cool. It used to be, well, it still is the case that I don't think about like kids necessarily. I don't have kids, but I think about putting a drum kit in it because I'm a drummer, and as there have been so many times that I've tried to weasel my way out of like selling a car that I have that can fit a drum kit to get like a 911, because I'm just like, oh, well, if you move the seats around and maybe, and then like somebody rational in my life is like, don't be in it, like you can't do that. And I'm like, okay, you're right, I guess it's just gonna have to be a 2-car solution. But like those cars are really maybe the do-it-all, the end-all be-all as far as like the one car solution. I think that the Panamera is like such a awesome, like classy, luxury, robust car built by, again, a company that makes normal cars, which I really, really like. And the wagon obviously offers that like extra practicality. And I'm pretty sure you can fit a drum kit in there. I think I actually almost bought a normal Panamera, but somebody talked me out of it because they said I probably couldn't fit a drum kit in there. And then the E-Class wagon is so cool too. They look a little lethargic, to be honest. But like if I picture myself, you know, like as a dad one day, I'm like, it'd be cool if I, you know, picked up the kids from baseball practice and their kids want to come over and they sit in the back. Like you open up the hatch to get them into the third row. I feel like that'd be super cool. Not even really an AMG one. Like an AMG would be cool. Or like for the Panamera example, like I don't even think it'd have to be a turbo, because I feel like if you're getting a car for that reason, you're not really focused on that, because the base models of those are still pretty fast. But yeah, I think they're pretty awesome, especially like the newer ones, like the newer E-Class wagons. Like just get the nicest E-Class wagon that you can afford. I feel like that'd be a good position to be in life. So anyway, that's my list of cars that I'm obsessed with. This is a very abbreviated list. I'm sure anybody who's like a car person can probably relate to the fact that like this is definitely nowhere near the amount of cars that, like, yeah, if I had $1 billion and an unlimited lifespan, I would just try and get all of these. But like these are the ones that I'm regularly searching for on Auto Trader and stuff. This is like the main rotation of cars that I'm pretty obsessed with. But I don't know why I felt like making this video. I just did. It's just a gloomy day out. It's none of this was like scripted like I normally do with my videos. I don't know, I was just feeling this kind of way today. So hopefully this gets the attention of the car nerds who watch my videos or something, and we can nerd out in the comments or something like that. But I also wanted to mention real quick that I do have a Patreon. I keep on forgetting to mention that because I started this Patreon so that I could finally put my original music somewhere, because I was with this label for a little bit and I couldn't release anything. So I was like, I'll just start this Patreon so I can have my music live there. And now I'm not on a label, so I don't have to do that, but I'm just gonna keep it up anyway. It's only $1 a month. I post all my videos early on there. You guys can check it out. It's in the link in the description. And then also I wanted to say that I do have a song coming out. I don't know if it'll be out before or after this video, but it'll be on Friday, May 23rd. That is a Friday, right? Yeah, Friday, May 23rd. And then I'll have another one out on June 6th. So I'll be on the lookout for that. It's under my name, Sam Gilman. So thank you guys for watching. I appreciate it. And I will see you in the next one.